Fellow Ghanaians, good morning. It is 2026, and one of the most basic functions of modern life and the ability of citizens to move from their homes to their workplaces, their markets to their hospitals, and back with all the dignity and predictability has become an exhausting daily struggle across Accra and major cities in this country. All of this have been marked by long winding queues at bus stops and transport terminals where people are having to stand for hours simply hoping that a vehicle will appear. This has not been an isolated inconvenience or a temporary disruption as we've come to see. It is now a widespread and persistent crisis where workers cannot get to work on time, where traders are losing productive hours, people going to the hospital are missing appointments, and students have become stranded. Families are now forced to reorganize their lives around the uncertainty, all because the transport system has quietly but completely failed them. The precise technical diagnosis of this problem is important, but it's not the most important issue before us right now. Because the immediate and undeniable reality, fellow Ghanaians, is that people cannot find vehicles to go about their lawful daily lives. And that alone should trigger emergency level response from any serious or responsible government. The daily hassle has become unbearable, fellow Ghanaians, as desperate commuters crumble for the very few vehicles available, pushing, pleading, and waiting under the sun, only to be charged fares far beyond the approved rates, while ride-hailing applications are exploiting the scarcity through relentless surge pricing that turns short trips into unaffordable luxuries. Fellow Ghanaians, transport, which should enable productivity, has instead become a tax on time, energy, and dignity, and the poor, as always, are bearing the heaviest of burden. You are arriving late at work, you are losing income, or being forced to walk long distances simply because they cannot afford the inflated fares. What makes this situation even more frustrating is that we have been here before. Just last year, at the end of the year, the government, through the Ministry of Transport, acknowledged the problem. They identified key routes and deployed buses during peak hours. And for a brief moment, commuters felt relief and saw that intervention was possible. Then, without any explanation, without transition, without any visible alternative, those buses disappeared. The intervention was abandoned and the authorities then went to sleep. They left the people to deal with their problem, and the problem to return in an even more vicious and chaotic form. Fellow Ghanaians, the unavoidable question is whether the Ministry of Transport truly wants to look into the face of citizens and tell them that there is no solution to a problem that was partially solved just weeks ago, or whether the suffering of commuters has simply ceased to be a priority. Are Ghanaians now expected to accept that waiting for hours to get to work and hours more to return home is the new normal, that exhaustion is the civic duty, and that punctuality and productivity are not luxuries reserved for those who can afford private cars? The absurdity of this crisis is compounded by the fact that the state already owns buses, hundreds of them, including what we know as Ayalolo buses that are currently parked, deteriorating and wasting away. Assets bought with public money now rotting in the yards while citizens queue endlessly in the streets. At the same time, the government is seeking to procure even more buses. If these buses are faulty, then fix them. If they require maintenance, do so. If they need drivers, recruit and train them, and then deploy them aggressively, consistently, and then visibly all over the place. This should not be some public relation exercise, but a sustained public service. This is not complicated engineering at all. It is basic governance. Because when you have assets and a clear public need, the failure to connect those two is not a technical problem. It is a leadership gap. Fellow Ghanaians, commercial transport is not just an economic service. It is a national security issue. Because a city that cannot move cannot work. It cannot respond to emergencies. It cannot remain calm under pressure. And it cannot sustain social order indefinitely. Serious nations understand this, which is why they do not leave urban mass transport entirely in the hands of the private sector, especially in times of crisis. Because markets respond to scarcity with higher prices, not with fairness. And public welfare cannot be outsourced to profit alone. This is the moment for the government to act decisively, to saturate the system with buses, to regulate fares firmly, and to maintain predictable schedules, to restore confidence that the state is present in the lives of its people. Fellow Ghanaians, anything less than this is an admission that inconvenience, lost income, and the quiet suffering are acceptable collateral damage, and that is a position no responsible government should ever take. Fellow Ghanaians, a country that cannot move its people is a country standing still. And if we do not fix this transport crisis, basic problems like this will continue to pay for it in lost productivity, rising frustration, and a growing sense that the most basic of our problems are simply being ignored. There is also the silent economic cost that is rarely measured but deeply felt by so many. Because when workers have to spend 3 or 4 hours each day chasing vehicles instead of producing value, the economy loses time it can never recover. Employers lose efficiency, and then families, people, lose moments of rest, of care, and connection. All of this quietly accumulating into national fatigue. Beyond economics, the human toll is severe. Commuters have to leave home at dawn so early. Sometimes they have to go to work at 9, but they're leaving at 5 because they want to get a car. And then return late at night and live in a constant state of stress and uncertainty. Parents are missing time with their children, caregivers are now failing to meet responsibilities. And ordinary citizens are feeling abandoned by systems that are supposed to make daily life manageable. If this government truly believes in productivity, in discipline, and in national development, then restoring reliable public transport must be treated as a topmost urgent infrastructure, not as some afterthought, because development does not begin with speeches or policy. They have to get to actions. It begins with getting people where they need to be, safely, affordably, and on time. That is how you build a nation, fellow Ghanaians. And so the ball is in the court of the government, the transport minister and his deputy. If they cannot fix a problem as basic as this, we all do know they do not deserve another hour in office. Good morning, fellow Ghanaians.